Friends, we have been told a lie since the moment we were old enough to understand the word no. We have been raised in a culture that treats rejection as a wall, a finality, or a definitive judgment on our worth. We see it as a bruise on the ego, a scar on the resume, or a door slammed in the face of our dreams. But I am here today to pull back the curtain on this grand illusion and introduce you to the reality of what I call the rejection myth. The myth tells you that rejection is a stop sign, but the truth is that rejection is merely a redirection. It is not a measurement of your value, it is a measurement of fit, timing, and often the narrow-mindedness of the gatekeeper. Think about the sheer weight we give to the opinions of those who do not know our hearts. We allow a single email, a brief interview, or a silent response to dictate how we feel when we look in the mirror. We treat the word no as if it were a universal truth etched into the stars. But the myth of rejection thrives on your fear. It grows in the dark corners of your insecurity, whispering that if you weren't good enough for this specific opportunity, then you aren't good enough for any opportunity. This is the first layer of the myth we must strip away. You must realize that a no from the world is rarely about your lack of ability, and almost always about the world's lack of vision. The history of human achievement is not a story of constant yeses. It is a graveyard of no's that were refused burial. We look at the greats, the innovators, the artists, the leaders, and we see their finished monuments, but we forget the rubble they had to climb over to build them. We forget that the most iconic voices of our time were once told they were too loud, too quiet, too different, or simply not talented enough. They succeeded not because they were never rejected, but because they understood that rejection is an external event, not an internal identity. They recognized the myth for what it was, a filter designed to weed out those who do not truly want the prize. When you face rejection, your immediate instinct is to shrink. You want to hide your work, silence your voice, and retreat into the safety of the status quo. The myth tells you that by retreating, you are protecting yourself from further pain. But what you are actually doing is suffocating your potential. Every time you accept a rejection as a final verdict on your soul, you are handing over the keys to your future to someone who doesn't even know your name. Why should a stranger's no carry more weight than your own yes? Why should their limited perspective define the boundaries of your horizon? We must begin to view rejection as a form of data, not a form of destruction. When a scientist runs an experiment and it fails, they don't cry and swear they'll never enter a lab again. They look at the results, they adjust the variables, and they try again. They know that a negative result is just as valuable as a positive one because it tells them where the path is blocked. The myth of rejection wants you to take it personally, but the success of your life requires you to take it professionally and strategically. It is a signal that you are playing the game. It is proof that you are in the arena. If you aren't being rejected, you aren't asking for enough. You aren't reaching high enough. You are playing it so safe that you've become invisible. Let us consider the emotional toll of this myth. It creates a paralysis where we stop trying before we even start because the imagined sting of rejection is worse than the reality of it. We live in the what if instead of the what is. We imagine the laughter of others, the pity of our peers, and the crushing weight of failure. But here is the secret. Most people are too busy worrying about their own rejections to notice yours. The myth suggests that the world is watching you stumble, but the world is actually waiting for someone to show them how to get back up. Your resilience in the face of a no is more inspiring than 1,000 easy yeses. The rejection myth suggests that there is a limited amount of opportunity in the world, and that if one door closes, the house is locked forever. This scarcity mindset is the ultimate trap. The universe is not a closed room. It is an infinite landscape. If one person cannot see the value in what you offer, it simply means they are not the right audience for your masterpiece. It means you are standing in the wrong room. Instead of banging your fists against a locked door until your hands bleed, turn around and look at the vast expanse of hallway behind you. There are doors you haven't even noticed yet because you were too busy mourning the one that wouldn't open. As we move forward, I want you to start reclaiming your power from this myth. Start seeing every no as a badge of honor. It is evidence that you had the courage to put yourself out there. It is evidence that you dared to want more than what was handed to you. The more rejections you collect, the closer you are to the one yes that will change everything. But that yes cannot find you if you have gone into hiding. It cannot reach you if you have decided that the myth is true. You are the author of this story, and a rejection is just a plot twist, not the end of the book. To truly dismantle the myth of rejection, we must examine the anatomy of the word itself. We have been conditioned to see it as a reflection of our inadequacy, but in reality, rejection is often a protection. We spend so much of our lives mourning the things that didn't work out, the jobs we didn't get, the relationships that ended, the investments that fell through, without ever considering that we were being spared from a path that was never meant for us. The myth tells you that you lost something valuable, but the truth is often that you were redirected towards something better. If you could see the no from a year or a decade in the future, you would realize that it was the very thing that forced you to grow, to pivot, and to find the strength you didn't know you possessed. We must stop viewing our lives through the narrow lens of the present moment and start trusting the broader architecture of our journey. The myth of rejection relies on the idea of a fixed self. It assumes that who you are today is all you will ever be. Therefore, if you are rejected today, the myth says you are a failure forever. But you are not a finished product. You are a work in progress. Every rejection is an invitation to refine your craft, to sharpen your skills, and to deepen your resolve. It is the friction that polishes the diamond. Think of the athlete who is cut from the team and spends the entire summer training twice as hard, only to return the next year as the most valuable player. Was the rejection a defeat? No, it was the catalyst. It provided the hunger that a yes could never have provided. Success can make us soft and complacent, but rejection makes us lean and hungry. It strips away the vanity and leaves only the raw determination to prove the world wrong, and more importantly, to prove yourself right. Consider the social pressure that fuels the rejection myth. We live in an era of curated perfection where we only see the highlight reels of others. We see the awards, the promotions, and the celebrations, but we never see the stacks of rejection letters hidden in the desk drawers. This creates a false narrative that success is a linear climb. Because we don't see the rejections of others, we feel uniquely broken when we experience our own. We feel like outcasts in a world of winners. But the only difference between the person who succeeded and the person who gave up is that the winner was willing to be rejected one more time than the loser. They stopped caring about the optics of failure and started caring about the objective of growth. They realized that being rejected is just a highbrow word for trying. If you aren't being rejected, you aren't pushing the boundaries of your comfort zone. You are living in a cage of your own making, and while it might feel safe, it is also where dreams go to die. We also need to talk about the ego's role in sustaining this myth. The ego wants to be liked, validated, and accepted at all times. It sees a no as a personal attack, a wound to its pride. But your soul knows better. Your soul knows that your worth is inherent and cannot be granted or taken away by a hiring manager, a critic, or a peer. When you detach your self-worth from external outcomes, the myth of rejection loses its power over you. You begin to see that no is just a sound, a vibration in the air, or ink on a page. It has no power to stop your heart from beating, no power to stop your brain from thinking, and no power to stop your feet from moving forward. The moment you stop seeking permission to exist and to succeed is the moment the myth evaporates. You don't need the world to say yes for you to be great. You need to be great until the world has no choice but to say yes. The myth also tells us that rejection is a waste of time. We count the hours, months, or years spent on a project that didn't get picked up as lost time. This is a fundamental misunderstanding of how human potential works. Nothing is ever wasted. The effort you put into the thing that failed is the exact effort that built the muscle you need for the thing that will succeed. Every failed pitch is a rehearsal for the one that lands. Every broken heart is a lesson in what you truly need in a partner. Every business that closes is an MBA in real-world economics. The myth wants you to regret your efforts, but I want you to honor them. You are a different person today because you tried. You are more resilient, more experienced, and more aware than you were before you were rejected. That growth is yours to keep. No one can take it from you, and it is more valuable than any yes that comes too easily. Furthermore, rejection is often a test of the intensity of your desire. It asks the question, how much do you really want this? If you walk away at the first sign of opposition, then you didn't want the goal. You only wanted the feeling of winning. But if you can look rejection in the eye and say, is that all you've got? Then you are the kind of person who eventually changes the world. The world is full of talented people who gave up the moment it got hard. The world is moved by the people who stayed in the game when they had every reason to quit. The rejection myth is the gatekeeper of greatness. It stands at the entrance to every significant achievement and asks for your credentials. Your credentials aren't your past successes. Your credentials are the scars of your past rejections. I want you to think about the people in your life who you admire most. I guarantee you that their path was paved with rejection. They were told their ideas were too radical, their style was too unconventional, or their timing was off. They were rejected by schools, by employers, by publishers, and by investors. But they had a secret weapon. They knew the myth wasn't real. They knew that a no today is just a not yet or a not this way. They understood that the only true rejection is the one you give yourself when you stop trying. Everything else is just feedback. It's just the world giving you a chance to iterate and come back stronger. When you stop fearing the no, you become dangerous. You become a force of nature because you can no longer be controlled by the threat of disapproval. So, let us stop apologizing for our failures. Let us stop whispering about our rejections as if they are shameful secrets. Instead, let us wear them as armor. Let us realize that every time we are rejected, we are being funneled toward our true purpose. The myth says you are being excluded, but the truth is that you are being refined. You are being shaped into the person who is capable of handling the massive yes that is waiting further down the road. If you got everything you wanted right now, you wouldn't have the character to sustain it. Rejection builds the character that success requires. It teaches you humility, it teaches you perseverance, and it teaches you that your value is not a commodity that can be traded on the open market. As we reach the final stage of dismantling the rejection myth, we must confront the most powerful illusion of all, the idea that rejection is a sign that we are moving in the wrong direction. We often think that if we were on the right path, things would be easy, doors would swing open, and the red carpet would unfurl before us. But if you look at the life of anyone who has ever made a dent in the universe, you will see that the greatest resistance always appears right before the greatest breakthrough. Rejection is not a sign to turn back. It is often a sign that you are knocking on the doors of the kingdom. It is a sign that you are challenging the status quo, and the status quo always fights back before it yields. The myth wants you to believe that struggle is a sign of error, but struggle is the very evidence of your advancement. Think about the psychological freedom that comes when you finally decide to embrace rejection rather than flee from it. Imagine if your goal for the next 30 days wasn't to get as many yeses as possible, but to collect 100 no's. If you went out into the world actively seeking rejection, you would find that your fear begins to dissolve. You would realize that the no doesn't actually hurt. It doesn't break your bones. It doesn't take away your talent. What it does is liberate you. When you are no longer afraid of being told no, you become capable of asking for anything. You ask for the promotion. You ask for the date. You ask for the investment. You ask for the stage. Most people live in a self-imposed prison because they are afraid of a word. But once you realize that the word is a myth, the prison bars vanish. You start to realize that the world is a lot more flexible than you were led to believe. We must also recognize that rejection is a profound teacher of empathy. When you have tasted the bitterness of being turned away, you become a better leader, a better friend, and a better human being. You develop a heart for the underdog. You learn to look past the surface and see the potential in others that the rest of the world might be overlooking. The rejection myth tries to make you bitter, but the truth of the experience should make you better. It should give you a perspective that those who have only known easy success can never understand. It gives you a depth of character and a resonance of soul that allows you to connect with others on a level that is raw and real. Your rejections are the very things that will one day allow you to stand on a stage and give hope to someone else who is currently sitting in the dark, feeling like they aren't enough. Let us speak to the creative spirit within each of you. Every artist, every writer, every entrepreneur, and every dreamer faces the rejection myth on a daily basis. The myth says that if people don't like your work is bad. But history is a gallery of masterpieces that were initially mocked or ignored. The world is often slow to recognize true genius because genius, by definition, looks like nothing the world has seen before. If you are doing something truly original, you should expect to be rejected. If everyone understands and accepts what you are doing immediately, you are probably just repeating what has already been done. Rejection is the tax you pay for being a pioneer. It is the price of admission for entering the territory of the new. Don't let the narrow imagination of the present moment steal the future of your vision. The myth also tells us that rejection is permanent. It implies that if you are rejected once, that door is closed forever. But the world is in a constant state of flux. People change, priorities shift, and gatekeepers are replaced. A no today is not a no for eternity. It is simply a no for this version of you at this moment in time under these specific circumstances. Many of the most successful people in the world were rejected by the very companies they eventually ended up leading. They were rejected by the very people who later begged to work with them. Persistence is the process of outlasting the no. It is the act of staying in the game long enough for the circumstances to change in your favor. If you believe the myth, you walk away and never see the shift. If you know the truth, you keep sharpening your axe, knowing that the tree will eventually fall. Moreover, we must stop giving the people who reject us the power of the judge. When someone rejects you, they are not giving you a grade on your life. They are simply making a choice based on their own limited needs, biases, and pressures. They are human, just like you. They have bad days, they make mistakes, and they often lack the foresight to see what is right in front of them. Why would you let someone else's mistake become your identity? Why would you let their lack of insight become your lack of confidence? The rejection myth functions by convincing you that the person saying no is an objective authority on your worth. They are not. They are just another person trying to figure it out. And often, they are just as scared and limited as anyone else. As we conclude this journey together, I want you to look at your life through a new lens. I want you to look at every failure, every door slammed, and every not interested, not as a list of grievances, but as a list of qualifications. You are here because you survived those moments. You are here because you didn't let the myth swallow you whole. You are stronger today not in spite of your rejections, but because of them. They have forged a steel in your spine that a life of easy yeses could never have created. You have been tested, and you are still standing. That is your power. That is your truth. So, when you walk out of here today, I want you to go looking for the no. I want you to aim so high that rejection is an absolute certainty. I want you to play a game so big that the world has no choice but to take notice. When the rejection comes, and it will, I want you to smile. I want you to recognize it for what it is: a signpost, a teacher, a refiner, and a myth. Do not shrink, do not hide, and do not apologize. Take that no and use it as fuel. Use it to work harder, to think deeper, and to dream bigger. The only thing that can truly stop you is your own decision to believe the lie. But now you know the secret. Now you know that rejection is just the universe's way of making sure you are ready for the greatness that is coming your way. The myth is dead. Your future is alive. The world is waiting for you to stop asking for permission and start claiming your place. Every no you have ever received has been leading you to this moment, to this realization, and to the person you are becoming. The path is open, the horizon is vast, and the only person who can truly reject you is you. And I have a feeling that from this day forward, you are going to start saying yes to yourself over and over again until the rest of the world has no choice but to follow suit. Go out there and be bold. Go out there and be rejected. Go out there and become the person you were always meant to be.